If you're doing this, you're sabotaging all your social interactions without even knowing it. Watch this video. So you might have heard this phrase used before, and it's called negative self-talk. And really the idea behind this phrase is that, when you speak badly to yourself in your mind, you have a bad thought about maybe the way that you look or something that you did that you judge, any kind of entertainment of bad thoughts about yourself in your head is sabotaging your social interaction. Now, what's funny is that in my personal life, I did this all the time up until my mid-30s because I didn't realize that just because I had the thought didn't mean that I didn't have to entertain it. I thought that if I was having the thought, that stimulus was coming from somewhere. And if it was coming from somewhere, then of course there must be something to it because I thought it and there was a root somewhere, right? And that there had to be something to it because I thought it. And this totally disregards the fact that our thoughts come from habits and outside stimulus and all these things that can create our thoughts. And so if I have a negative thought about, maybe how I look one day or whatever, let's just say that, I have these thoughts in high school when I really didn't look that good, per se. And then, I grow up into adulthood and now I've got, 2, maybe 3 decades of thinking I don't look great and then saying that to myself over and over and over again. And the byproduct is anytime I have a social interaction, I'm sitting there thinking about how I'm not up to snuff aesthetically. And this little, mental loop in my head is taking up bandwidth that I could otherwise devote to being funny or to saying the next little witty thing or to making that person laugh or smile. And so many people in adulthood have conquered this issue and have figured this out. But because it took me, 3.5 decades to figure out that this is something that should not be native to your emotional atmosphere, it should not be a regular part of your everyday. If you do something that you don't like, yes, you should fix it, but you should not sit there and judge yourself about it and entertain these negative thoughts about yourself. Why? Well, going a level deeper is that we have neural pathways in our brain. In other words, the more we do something, the better we get at doing that exact thing. So if I'm constantly thinking bad about myself for whatever reason, maybe I have a valid reason. Maybe I judge myself for something I did. But the more times that I do that, okay, the better I'm going to get at thinking negatively about myself. Conversely, if I start a discipline of smiling the second I wake up, so that way that my body adopts this facial posture that I have of smiling, and all of a sudden my emotions follow my physiology, okay, now I'm going to get better at being happy from the very start of the day. So you have a choice as to what thoughts you entertain and what mood that you're going to select. Even if you wake up in a bad mood, you can cultivate the mood that you're actually going to execute on throughout the day. And so make sure that you're not entertaining these negative thoughts about yourself. Yes, if you don't like the way that you look, start to work on changing that. Get in the gym, get a different haircut, blah, 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 right? There's all these things that you can do, okay? But if you dwell in there and you judge yourself, you don't forgive yourself, and you have any kind of weight on your shoulders about these issues, now all of a sudden you're giving yourself excess baggage that you don't need. And again, it's going to take up bandwidth when you're talking to other people. The best way to succeed socially, okay, is to not have any bandwidth draws. Like if you Control-Alt-Delete and you can see all the different programs that are taking up memory on the CPU on your computer, you don't want any programs running that aren't exactly relevant to that moment with that other person, right? So if I'm talking to somebody and, the subject at hand is science, not that spectacular, but I need to have my brain sharp so that way I can talk about science, right? And even if we're just talking about science, maybe there's something going wrong in the room, right? There's something going on in the room that I can look over and notice, and I can crack a joke about that, even though I'm engaged in this discussion about science. But if I have a tab open in my computer thinking about, man, maybe I'm not up to snuff. Oh, I did this thing last week, or I did this thing years ago that I didn't forgive myself for. Now I've got too much memory being bogged down on my CPU. So how do you fix this stuff? In my case, for 3.5 decades, I had this negative self-talk, okay? So that's 3.5 decades of neural programming for doing the wrong thing, okay? So in my case, it took me about a month, maybe 2 months max, of every time that I would have a negative thought about myself, I would manually stop it in its tracks, okay? So if I catch myself in the mirror and I'm like, man, I'm not really looking that great today, instead of thinking that, okay, I would just flush out that thought. Okay, and I had to do this continually because these thoughts would continue to crop up. And I had to do that continuously over the course of a couple different months. Now, after I did that, then they went away completely. It's very rare that I think something bad about myself anymore. You know, obviously I can still observe my failures and stuff like that, but I don't judge myself anymore. And I don't have these automatic thoughts that happen, even though I don't look like Jason Momoa, even though I'm not the richest guy in the world, blah, 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 right? There's things that could be improved, but I don't have these negative thoughts weighing myself down, and I'm way more adept socially because of it. So make sure that you root out negative self-talk. When you identify the thought, crush it in its tracks, and develop your awareness through meditation and things of this nature, so that way you can catch your thoughts as they come into your brain, and you can stop them before they continue to take over. Now, if you like what you heard here and you think it makes sense, make sure that you're following my account over here. Click on my profile and hit follow, okay? And if you want to go a little bit deeper, you can click on the link in my profile and contact me, either book a call with me for a coaching session or actually sign up to one of my events that I'm hosting on January 14th. I'd love to see you there. And thanks for the follow in advance.